Welcome in, belly up, have a seat, and grab a drink as we talk some Wingman Fantasy Football. Welcome on into another edition of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Furley, and as always, I'd like to thank all of you, or any of you who may be watching or listening to today's show. It is Monday, October 27th. This is episode 183, and we're about to have our Week 8's two-point conversation. And as always, it's my great pleasure to welcome rival as we go head-to-head in our fantasy matchup this week, Mr. Bernie, a.k.a. Team B.
I'm Cuban B. Yes, Cuban B.
How you doing today, Bernie?
Yeah, I don't like you, but I'm doing okay.
Fair
but
enough.
I like you. I like you, but I don't like you.
I understand. We had a crazy score. We might be the top two scoring teams this week, and we're up against each other. It's going to be a tough loss for one of us, and it's trending towards one over the other at the moment.
All
right.
It's the middle of the season, and I'll just rack up that 100 points to my total.
There you go. All right. There is a high score payout for the rest of the season, so you're still working on that at least.
Yep. There you go.
All right, guys. In this show, we're going to start off with some player news. We're going to go through the studs and duds for week number 8. We'll also settle into our Week 8's two-point conversation, where we go through all of the action in Week 8 up to this point. And then we'll take a look at some early waiver wire targets. But before we do any of that, I want to make sure that everybody is in the room. Wingmen assemble! All right. First thing to start off the news here, I don't have it written down here. Today was National Tight Ends Day. Do you have a feeling about this? Do you care one way or the other, or do you notice that tight ends seem to score more on this day?
No, I didn't know about it until I was watching the San Francisco game, and they mentioned it because I have Kittle in my lineup, and thank goodness he at least scored a touchdown. He wouldn't do it nothing.
All right, so starting off with some news here, guys. Did I put the news sound drop? Let's do it. Just in case I didn't do it, I'll do it again. All right, Drake London, guys. This is a bit of a surprise. Was inactive on Sunday against the Miami Dolphins. I think he was one of the guys who had the hip injury show up later in the week, and he was 50-50. Again, when we record the Sunday morning quickie, it wasn't clear, although just with the lateness on the injury, I thought he might not play, and it seemed that was the case. A big blow, because I'm sure he was in the game plan. And also staying with that team, the Atlanta Falcons, Michael Penix Jr. was inactive, making way for the return for Kirk Cousins, his glorious return to take back the starting job. Michael Penix, who? Oh, never mind. Kirk Cousins stunk today. He was awful. Another quarterback who was inactive was Bryce Young. I didn't write that down here. Bryce Young missed today. And Andy Dalton, his glorious return, and he also stunk today. So all these backups who came in were pretty bad, except for one here. Lamar Jackson surprisingly missed Week 8 after missing, was it 2 or 3 games and having a bye. Did miss Week 8, and Tyler Snoop Huntley actually had a decent game today, at least managing the game for the Baltimore Ravens. And, man, we'll just stop right there with these guys who missed today going into it. Drake London, I think that's a big hit because I'm sure they had him ready to go. Michael Penix and Bryce Young and Lamar Jackson all missed today.
Yeah, lots of big points and trickle-down effect that happened today. Atlanta, that was a tough blow for them. They're going up against a team that wasn't supposed to be any good on defense, but I guess either Kirk Cousins was real bad and they really missed Drake, or Dolphins defense was not as bad as we all thought. Zay Flowers did get some more looks today than normal, so that was a positive. Hopefully Thursday night we will see Lamar Jackson come back.
All right. This is sad. I want to play the sound because it might be the last time we're going to play it, but I just feel a little disrespectful doing it. Cam Scattaboo had a gruesome injury today, dislocated his ankle, was taken straight to the hospital. We're going to find out a little bit more on the severity of this injury. I'm just going to do it here on my own here. Tough luck here, Scat Man. Scat, bat, booda, bup. Bat, booda, butta, bup. All right. Cam Scattaboo, a bad injury. Marvin Mims, there was a lot of passing going around today in that Denver Broncos game, but Marvin Mims was not part of that party as he left the game a little early. I'm not sure exactly when he exited because I saw him pretty much into the second half, but he left with a concussion. Kinshawn Judkins was unable to finish the game against the Patriots as he suffered a shoulder injury, and the Browns are on bye in week 9. So I don't think we're going to get too much updates on his injury as they're automatically not going to play next week, which means we're not going to know the severity unless they really want to be forthcoming, which is going to be a little tricky making lineup decisions for the next couple weeks. In that same vein, Saquon Barkley left Week 8's game in the fourth quarter with a groin/hamstring injury, and the Philadelphia Eagles are also on bye in Week 9. All right, we got some big-time running backs here, and including Marvin Mims, who did not finish the game with the biggest injury being Cam Skattebo.
Yeah, Skattebo, that's a tough one. Tyrone Tracy, Devin Singletary. Tyrone Tracy comes up. Devin Singletary becomes the backup role there. Jackson Dart really loses his security blanket. Marvin Mims, it was a feast today. I'm not sure, he was coming off a season high 6 catch 85 yards, so it's a tough loss for them if he misses any more time. Cortland Sutton did have a touchdown. I just want to throw that out there. That was returned back, called off or something for some silly reason. Did you get to Judkins and Barkley?
I did.
Okay. Yeah, Judkins, we're going to monitor week 10 status after the bye just to see what that timeline looks like. Dylan Sampson and Jerome Ford, probably going to split that backfield there. And then Saquon, I'm not too worried about that. Yeah, we'll see. I'm not going to comment on that one. That one should be fine.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I saw some quotes from him. I'm assuming they were from after the game, not before the game, and I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
when they were taken, they were posted after the game from like reporters, and nothing was related to his injury. They're all related on like coming back and playing the Giants after being embarrassed a couple weeks back.
Yeah.
That leads me to believe that it's not overly serious. It wasn't a blowout. I think they won by 18 points by the end or something like that. But the Philadelphia Eagles are pretty much in charge of this the whole time, so I could see them being overly cautious by that point. A little heads up here, Tank Bigsby got the majority of the work in that fourth quarter. Not sure if that's going to be something going forward as game plan goes if he misses time. But again, at this point, we can't assume any missed time. I do want to make a point here with Skattebo. Obviously gruesome when you have a dislocated joint because you have body parts facing the wrong direction or whatever, what have you. But this is not necessarily the worst news here. As a dislocated joint, as long as you can pop it in, and there's no other damage. You have to worry about your ligaments being a little stretched out and being a bone bruises and stuff. But if there's no chipping to the bone or no ligament tears in that ankle, he probably won't be back this year because he's a power running back on an ankle. But it won't be like a big time injury where he's going to have multiple surgeries. But again, that is to be determined. They're going to have to look inside there and check out what damage is done. But if it's just simply the dislocation of the joint, it's kind of like a pop it back in and just kind of tape it up real good, and it could be okay. I'm hoping for the best in terms of just long-term prognosis, but there's even a chance he can get back if all those positives come to be true here. All right, moving along. We got two.
I was just gonna say. I mean, I hope so for Tank or for Skattebo, but
Yeah.
he could sit out the rest of the year. We don't need King George to have him back on the team at all.
No, yeah. All right, we have two more guys here. I didn't see when he left because he had some decent stats and he has an undisclosed injury, but Harold Fannin took part in that tight ends day as he got in the end zone today for the Cleveland Browns. Once again, they're on bye next week. We're not going to find out. It was already undisclosed as it is, and we're not going to find out anything for the next 10 days or so. This one is very interesting. A defensive player got hurt. And honestly, I was starting to set my lineup for next week, Bernie, as I thought I had in the bag until you scored 2 touchdowns. And I freaked out. I'm like, I shouldn't have touched anything. We've got the Houston Texans playing against the Denver Broncos next week. But Patrick Surtain had a shin injury early in the game, came back into the game on that injury, but late in the first half had a shoulder injury, could not lift his arm up over his head, did not return. And even though the Broncos destroyed the Dallas Cowboys, the Cowboys were throwing the ball all around the field once Patrick Surtain was out. They just couldn't complete their drives as they were getting some turnovers. But Patrick Surtain is a big-time difference maker in terms of passing defense for their opponents. So, Harold Fannin out. We're not going to know too much here, but Patrick Surtain is actually a pretty big deal for a defensive player in terms of offenses and what they can do with his absence.
It's going to be Riley Moss has to step up a lot. But his problem is his passing interference
Yep.
issues. But yeah, when you're setting your lineup against this defense, you definitely have to look at that. Now, if they make any sort of shifts in what kind of coverages that they're doing, we'll see how good that coaching staff can be if Surtain misses extended period of time.
All right, guys. Well, our news is a little short this week, which is good. We had some major injuries there and some guys who just didn't play today, but I didn't see any other big time news unless I'm missing something. Is there anything you want to add? I kind of did it a little quickly, just kind of glanced at. Did I miss anything that you can think of?
No, nothing that I saw that didn't pop up as a huge concern. So,
And if it is, I'm sure we'll bring them up as we go through some of the games. They might jog our memory for certain things that we might have missed here on the headlines. All right. So now it's time to take a look at our studs and duds for week number 8.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Wingman Fantasy Football, studs and duds.
All right, Bernie, why don't you start us off with the top of our studs list for week number 8?
All right, top 4 on this list are all QBs. Surprise, surprise. Drake May leads us off at 28.28 fantasy points, 282 passing yards, 50 rushing yards, and 3 passing touchdowns for Drake May. Justin Herbert is up next, 27.28 fantasy points, 227 passing yards, 62 rushing yards, and 3 passing touchdowns. Wow for those two guys. Bo Nix is up next, 25.88, 247 passing yards and 4 passing touchdowns. And Jalen Hurts, 25.36 fantasy points. And he was doing it in the air this time, 179 passing yards, 22 rushing yards, but 4 passing touchdowns for Jalen Hurts.
And we have old man Joe Flacco made the list. He had all these points in the first half. We'll talk about that later as I watch this game quite closely. But Joe Flacco, if you put him in your lineups, he did not disappoint at 24.32 points, 223 passing yards, 14 rushing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown as he got his first rushing touchdown since 2017, I think I saw was the stat. I could be mistaken. Around that time, though. Tua Tagovailoa, went from 3 interceptions to 4 passing touchdowns at 24.2 points. He got there with 205 passing yards and those 4 passing touchdowns. Troy Franklin, when they go back and forth between Franklin and Mims, you mentioned Mims' stats last week. Well, Franklin got it this week at 23.9 points, 89 receiving yards on 6 catches, and he got in the end zone twice. In this one, what a shot in the dark. RJ Harvey, what? 23.6 points. He only touched the ball 7 times today, but he had 51 total yards with 1 catch, and he scored 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, touchdowns. Man, that Denver game was unreal for me. All right, Michael Pittman, 19.5 points, arguably the best offense, best team in the NFL right now. 95 receiving yards, 8 receptions, and 1 touchdown. Kamani Vidal, 19.2 points, 127 total yards, 1 reception, and 1 touchdown. And the king is back up on the board. Derrick Henry, 19.1 fantasy points on 71 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. And Jalen Waddle showing up, man. Wow. 18.4 fantasy points, 99 receptions, 99 receiving yards, 5 receptions, and 1 touchdown.
Yeah, I was focusing on that Cincinnati Jets game because of just the players I had, and my son was in the other room watching the Dolphins game, and you could just hear him say, "Oh, Waddle, go Waddle." He was enjoying some of the big plays there. All right, Ladd McConkey on Thursday night is after a slow start is showing that he is the best receiving option in that receiving room there for the Chargers at 17.8 points, had 88 receiving yards on 6 catches and 1 TD. And Khalil Shakir had the identical stat line at 17.8 points. He too had 88 receiving yards on 6 catches and 1 TD. Devon the man Achane. Man, this is our 3rd Dolphin already. What is happening? We are the upside down, man. 17.6 points for Achane. He had 91 total yards, 5 receptions, and he got in the end zone once. And Javonte Williams, in his return to Denver for the Dallas Cowboys, had 17.4 points on 49 total yards. He had 1 reception, but he got in the end zone twice. He bangs into the end zone very effectively.
And our first kicker on the list happens to be Cameron Dicker, the kicker. 16.2 fantasy points, 3 field goals, and 4 point afters. Kamai Fairburn, 15.4 fantasy points, 4 field goals, and 2 point afters. And Andy, Borregales, 14 fantasy points, 3 field goals, 3-point afters, and Tyler Loop, 13.2 fantasy points with 3 field goals and 3-point afters.
Finishing out our Stellas, we had 2 more kickers who broke the 12-point threshold here. Cairo Santos at 12.8 points at 3 field goals and 1 extra point, while Matt Prater at 12.8 points. There's different ways to get it done, guys. Had 2 field goals and 4 extra points. Now, I want to notice here, I was going through all these kickers. None of these guys had a 50-yard field goal today. All these guys just did ho-hum, made their 5 kicks or so in a combination of field goals and extra points.
Yeah, maybe because they're using non-kicking balls and just regular game balls.
Oh, hello. All right, guys. For every yin yang there's yang, every stud there's a dud, and man, we've got tons of duds today. If you weren't on Bernie's team or my team, you had a dud in your lineup. All right, let's start off with the quarterback duds for Week 8.
All right, leading this core is Dak Prescott at 10.62 fantasy points. Carson Wentz coming up next. Isn't he a backup? Yeah, 9.76 fantasy points. Kirk Cousins. Isn't he a backup? Yeah, 7.12 fantasy points. Andy Dalton. Isn't he a backup? What year is this? 7.1 fantasy points for Andy Dalton.
Yeah, we've been fortunate that these backup running backs have come in for a couple weeks and been awesome. We had a chance for these backup quarterbacks get in, and they showed why they're backup quarterbacks. They stunk today, even in good matchups. But this guy started the game, did not finish. He might be a backup next week. Spencer Rattler at 6.64 points. And what happened to the MVP, Baker Mayfield? This is, I'll tell you what happened. When I see a defensive score in the first quarter, it gets me very upset because it just means the offense doesn't have to do anything for the next 10 minutes. And that's what happened here. Baker Mayfield only had 6.08 points. Kendrick Bourne came back down to earth at 5.9. And Tony Pollard tried his best, I swear, but 5.8 points for the Tennessee running back.
Oh, next up we have Evan Ingram. Time to retire, Evan. 5.6 fantasy points. Alvin Kamara, you're on a bad team. 5.5 fantasy points. Rico Dowdle, you gave up your running to Tajay Spears, I think, bud. No. Am I on the right team? I'm on the wrong team. Never mind. 5.4. I'm talking about Tony Pollard over here.
Oh, yeah.
5.4 fantasy points. Ramondre Stevens, also 5.4 fantasy points. Did he fumble today? I don't know.
I don't think Travion Henderson fumbled, though. I think that you got it. Colston Loveland with Komet out. We thought maybe he'd have a chance to go, but no, he would not participate in National Tight Ends Day at only 5.3 points. And this was just a case of bad offense and game script for the Tampa Bay Bucks, as Emeka Egbuka, one of the first times he's been a dud without leaving the game early. Mark Andrews at 4.9 points. Did I say Emeka Egbuka had 5 points? Pardon me. Mark Andrews at 4.9 and Keon Coleman at only 4.5.
All right, Aaron Jones starting to run again. Only 4 fantasy points this game. That should be going up, though. TJ Hawkinson, 3.6 fantasy points. Darius Slayton. Darius had a couple of drops that they could have really boosted his numbers. 3.6 for Darius and Theo Johnson, 3.5.
All right, I mentioned him earlier. Keyshawn Junkins did not finish the game today, could only get 3.4 points. Dalton Schultz was an emergency play with the absence of the 2 veteran receivers for the Texans. He did not come through at 3.4 points. Dalton Kincaid at 2.8, and Xavier Legette only got 2.7.
Ooh, this guy. Again, what year are we in? DeAndre Hopkins, 1.9 fantasy points. Marvin Mims, 1.8 fantasy points, but not his fault. Isaiah Likely. Man, our previews really depended on Lamar Jackson. Isaiah Likely, 1.8 fantasy points. Yeah. And Darnell Mooney, it was yours to have. London was out, but not today with Kirk Cousins, 1.6 fantasy points for Darnell.
Yeah, Mooney, he had 0 points for a long time. I'm like, what's happening here? And then I realized it was Kirk Cousins. All right, so Sterling Shepard, he might have been a dart throw with the injuries to Godwin and Evans, but he did not show up again. 1.3 points for Sterling Shepard. Jordan Mason, one of the biggest duds this week at 1.1 points on that Thursday night game. We had a couple of kickers only get 1 point, as Andre Schmidt for the Browns only had 1 point. Eddie Pinheiro, who's been awesome the last 2 weeks, only had 1 point. And the Dallas defense can only muster 1 point as well.
Yeah, and here's another surprise. San Francisco injury-ridden team now and defense, 1 fantasy point. And the virtual goose goes to Cincinnati's defense that let a lot of people down, 0.25 fantasy points for Cincinnati defense. And Jerry Jeudy and Quentin Johnston, both with a goose.
I think San Francisco's been on this list like 4 of the last 5 weeks. They get 1 point or 0 points almost every week. You can't blame them, guys. I mean, I'm sure I say that now. Next week they'll have a great game or next game, but they have not been performing at all. And it makes sense. They've lost so many people, and their offense is not controlling the game either. All right, now
wait, hold on before we move on. Let me ask you a question because this has just popped up in my brain. Cincinnati defense, 0.25 fantasy points. That means that they had a 4 and out, correct?
They had 1 4th down stop. I think in the first half that they're trying to score. I think it was the first or second drive of the game. The Jets went for it on like 4th and 1 and got stuffed.
Gotcha. So here's my question.
Yes.
If you do a field goal and it's a field goal is a miss, does that count as a turnover on downs?
No.
Oh, okay.
It just doesn't.
Just
yeah. That's
yeah. Just curious. Yeah. Okay.
That's a fair.
Moving
I mean, it was a different. Whatever. It's a special team, I guess. It's not the deep. I don't know. It doesn't. However you want to look at it, it doesn't. Okay.
Because it's not. There's only a change in possession. The yardage stays the same. That's why I would think that would be a turnover on.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't count in the way the stats are on, but I could see the argument why you could say it could. All right, now for our Mecha Studs this week. This list is short, guys, but it is nuclear. Let's check our Mecha Studs for week number 8.
Mega Studs.
All right, Bernie, I'm going to take all these, and there's not that many. It's not worth breaking up here if you don't mind. All right, starting off with your player. This guy's been awesome. We'll probably mention the 2-point conversation, but I'm going to mention it here again. Jonathan Taylor at 36.4 points, 174 total yards, 2 receptions, and 3 touchdowns. I believe this is 3 consecutive games with 3+ touchdowns, and he has 6 games this year, or 4 games this year with 3+ touchdowns, and he's on his way. He's trending towards breaking LaDainian Tomlin's record of 6 games of 3+ touchdowns. This guy has been consistently amazing. All right, James Cook, after having a few down weeks, went back to week 1 and 2 form here at 33.6 points. James Cook had 216 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Breece Hall, oh my goodness, this game was wild. Breece Hall at 31.86 points. He had 151 total yards on 2 catches, 2 rushing TDs, and he threw a passing touchdown to his favorite tight end, Mason Taylor, in the back of the end zone for the go-ahead touchdown, if I'm not mistaken, actually. So that was a big-time play. All right, Chase Brown finally showed up here after a decent game last week, had a Mecha Stud game this week at 24 points even. I skipped somebody. We'll get to him. 105 total yards, 3 catches, and 2 touchdowns for Chase Brown. I'd be remiss if I don't mention Saquon Barkley in about 3/4 of work. Started the game off with a 65-yard touchdown run on the second play of the game. He had 31.4 points on 174 total yards on 4 catches, and he got in the end zone twice, once on the ground and once in the air. And this is where all our Tampa Bay points went. Chase McLaughlin, the kicker, had 18.1 points with 3 field goals, 2-point afters, and 3 field goals over 50 yards. And the Tampa Bay defense, again, Tampa Bay did it in special teams, not on offense. 19.5 points for the Tampa Bay defense. That might be our highest scoring defensive score of the year. I'm not positive. Let's see. They did it with, was it 5? I lost my number here. As a 5 sacks, 5 sacks, 2 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries, a touchdown, 2 4th down stops, and they only allowed 3 points. All right, you can tell me what you want to tell me about these Mecha Studs here. Jonathan Taylor is just consistently amazing.
Yeah, it's great to see Chase Brown. He just skipped over regular studs and went from 0 to hero on the Mega Studs. And then Breece Hall, who knew, and Isaiah Davis also has a good amount of points because Cincinnati's defense is horrible.
Yep. I was banking on it, and it came through. It took a little while to get going, but it came through. All right, guys, it is now time to get into this week's 2-point conversation.
Is Jack Del Rio going to go for 2 here,
He's going for 2.
The Raiders will go for 2 and the probable victory with 47 seconds left.
If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win.
Wingman Fantasy Football's 2-point conversation.
And it's good! Oh my goodness!
All right, the theme for this week was National Tight Ends Day, and it really wasn't that good. The big-time tight ends didn't do too much. We had some no-names get in the end zone. We have Tucker Kraft on the Sunday night game doing well, but we did have a lot more tight end duds than usual for this day. The other part of the theme for this week is those backup quarterbacks came in and stunk. And that's about it for now. And in terms of our theme. All right. So Bernie, why don't you start us off? What game we're going to start off with in our 2-point conversation?
We're going to go back to Thursday and just glance over this one real fast. Minnesota Vikings at Los Angeles Chargers. Herbert hurls 3 touchdowns and Chargers commanding victory here. Justin Herbert, he threw 3 touchdown passes as the Chargers dominated the Vikings in Thursday night's blowout at SoFi Stadium. Herbert connected with rookies Oronde Gadsden II and Trey Harris, plus a little lad McConkey for scores, while Kamani Vidal rushed for 117 yards and a touchdown. Los Angeles never punted and scored on their first 2 possessions for the first time under Jim Harbaugh. Carson Wentz struggled under pressure with 5 sacks, completing just 15 of 27 for $144. The Chargers improved to 5-3, while Minnesota dropped to 3-4, losing consecutive games for the first time this season.
Yeah, going into this one, we had some running back news on both sides as we had Aaron Jones returning, making that backfield more of a split workload between Mason and Aaron Jones. So we went back to both those guys being unstartable, at least for 1 week in this matchup. And the other side, we had Hassan Haskins being ruled out. There was rumored to be trending down on Wednesday, but on Thursday he was ruled out, making way for Kamani Vidal to get all the work. Again, he was doing it anyway, but that just took away some competition there. Although Jared Payton, was it Jared Payton? No, might be Jared Payton, but Jared somebody, I forget. The other guy, and Naeem Hines got promoted from the practice squad. Jared Patterson, I apologize. I got promoted from the practice squad. So they actually got a lot more carries than you realize because that game was kind of a blowout. Like you said, Carson Wentz really put a damper on the whole flow of that game. Some people were, as these gambling scandals were coming out in the NBA, people were like, is he on the take? Because he was just throwing the ball into the dirt over and over again. And the Chargers dominated this one. And Kamani Vidal, 2 out of 3 weeks, has been quite serviceable starting fantasy option.
For sure. All right, let's move on to the next one.
Yep.
All right, here we go here. Next up, we have Miami Dolphins at Atlanta Falcons. And this one was Tagovailoa throws 4 touchdowns as the Dolphins dominate the Falcons. Tua threw a season-high 4 touchdown passes as the Dolphins ended their 3-game losing streak with a dominant performance at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Tua completed 20 of 26 passes for 205 yards with scoring strikes to Achane, Malik Washington, and Waddle, and Ollie Gordon II. Miami outgained Atlanta 338 to 213 yards, and committed to no turnovers after Tua threw 6 interceptions in his previous 2 games. The Falcons played without quarterback Michael Penix, top receiver Drake London, and sacks leader Zach Harrison due to injuries. While Kirk Cousins made it his first start since December of 2024, Miami improved to 2-6, while Atlanta fell to 3-4.
Yeah, this is a surprising outcome, and not just the score, but this is the second time that we went into a matchup where we're like, this is Bijan's big time game. Early in the season, they went against Carolina. While Carolina was still giving up a ton of yards, they've kind of improved, although James Cook went ham today against the Panthers. So I'm still not sure where the Panthers fall defensively. They're kind of going back and forth on me. But nonetheless, going into that game, we thought Bijan Robinson was going to have an awesome game, and they got shut out against the Panthers. This time we're like, all right, we know the Dolphins are the worst defense. Kamani Vidal gets 100 yards. Kinshawn Junkins gets 3 touchdowns. Who's the guy? Rico Dowdle had 200 yards the week before that. 3 straight weeks with middling to backup running backs getting huge numbers, and we're like, this is the best running back in the league. He's got to do it. And with the backup quarterback, Cousins, all he's got to do is hand it off. That's all he's got to do. I don't know what happened here. I don't know if it was turnovers or what, but man, this is one of the worst games. I think it's the first time, even those other games, the Carolina game, for example, I think Robinson still had 13 fantasy points. I think he finished like 7 or 8 today. So this was his worst game by far, and what was the best matchup by far. That in itself is just the biggest headline, in my opinion, in terms of fantasy news here. I know we're kind of breaking down the games here, but there's really nothing to break down except that this was a surprise all the way around, and some of our big-time players let us down, and our Dolphin offensive players were pleasant surprises.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of this game. The Dolphins, they looked good. They were clicking. The offensive line looked good, and the defense played very well. And it's unfortunate because it's very much like, well, clearly you can do it.
Yeah.
Why are you not doing it?
Right.
So Dolphins, they hit on all cylinders today. So when that happens, it's hard to stop them. But on the other side, Kirk Cousins, Bijan only had 9 carries. You can't have just 9 carries if your backup quarterback is in. It was a total of 17 carries for the running game altogether, and 2 of those were Kirk Cousins. That's just not going to win football games, especially when your backup quarterback is in. So just bad play.
Going to this one, I'm like, this is such a good matchup that I'm like, you can play both running backs. There might be some garbage time for Algier. Algier did get the touchdown late in the game to kind of salvage his day if you were desperate, but nonetheless, the running game was stifled.
Exactly. So, all right, let's go on to a more exciting game here with some points. New York Jets at Cincinnati Bengals. Hall's heroics lift the Jets past Bengals for first win of the season. Breece Hall rushed for 2 second-half touchdowns and threw a 4-yard scoring pass to Mason Taylor with 1 minute and 54 seconds remaining as the Jets rallied from a 15-point deficit to secure their first victory of the season. Justin Fields completed 21 of 32 passes for 244 yards and a touchdown, while Hall finished with 133 yards on 18 carries. The Jets trailed 31-16 entering the fourth quarter. Let me repeat that. The Jets trailed 31-16 entering the fourth quarter, but scored 3 touchdowns and converted 2 two-point conversions to complete the comeback. Joe Flacco passed for 2 touchdowns and rushed for a score for Cincinnati, but the Bengals failed to convert on fourth down in their final possession. New York improved to 1-7, while Cincinnati dropped to 3-5, losing for the 5th time in 6 games.
So this one, it was we had the Cincinnati Bengals got off to a flaming start here. Joe Flacco rushed in the first touchdown on a sneak, threw a touchdown. I forget who the second one of the tight ends, I think, and then he threw one to Chase Brown on on kind of a middle screen. So he had like 21 or 22 fantasy points at halftime. I'm like, okay, here we go. And then he didn't do anything that second half as they turned to the running game, which actually opened up. In all fairness, Chase Brown had a good stat day because he got in the end zone twice. But Samaje Perine also had a rushing touchdown. Perine had like 94 yards on like 12 carries, or might have it there.
9 carries.
9 carries. Yeah, it wasn't a ton, but there was one. The Cincinnati's best drive as they were trying to score and run the clock out. It was all Perine, and they kept handing the ball, and he was just getting chunk plays. They just scored too fast, I guess. And everything, I don't want to say got lucky. Everything broke very well today in terms of Aaron Glenn and his coaching decisions. He made a lot of 50-50 decisions, and except for the first fourth down stop that we mentioned in the duds there for the Cincinnati defense, they all came through. They converted 2 fourth downs, I believe. They got their 2 two-point conversions. They had I don't know if he actually officially challenged it or just he was going to challenge. I saw him grabbing his red hanky there or whatever, but I think maybe it came down from the top, so I don't know if he actually had a challenge. But he had a couple plays that were close. First downs was one where the guy, did he catch it at the first down marker? And they looked at it and they gave it to him. It would have been a turnover on downs. And then that last 2-point conversion, also they called it a no 2-point conversion. And he was like, he caught it again. I don't think he had to challenge that one. I think they looked at it. But it was Chase Brown who caught the 2-point conversion. It was a smaller player. Caught it where he was in the end zone and kind of diving forward to catch it. So they had to determine when he caught it to when he fell forward out of the end zone. And when you paused it, right when his knee hit the ground, the very tip of the nose of the ball was touching that white line for a big 2-point conversion. And actually both those 2-point conversion attempts I thought were risky in terms of the score math, but he went for it, and that gave him the win. That they weren't playing for the tie. We're like, we can't go for the tie. We're going to win or lose this game. And even at the end there, Joe Flacco had a chance. They had a minute and a half, a minute 47 left, only needing a field goal, and he couldn't do it. He got knocked out of the game for a minute on his only sack of the day. He was wincing, kind of got his shoulders squinched, and he was looking old and stiff by the end of this game. He came out blazing, but Flacco was definitely slowing down and looked old by the end of the game, and was throwing the ball in the dirt on that last drive. And congratulations to the Jets, man. They played well. Everything broke their way, and they made their own luck, and they deserved this one. They won a great game today.
Yeah, they did. Congratulations. I hate you. Okay, next up, we'll stay with some Ohio football here for a minute. The Cleveland Browns, they actually went over to Boston to play Cleveland Browns at New England Patriots. May's third quarter masterclass propels Patriots past the persistent Browns. Drake May threw 3 third quarter touchdown passes as New England rallied from a sluggish first half to defeat Cleveland. The Patriots quarterback completed 18 of 24 attempts for 282 yards despite being sacked 6 times. May connected with Hunter Henry, Stephon Diggs, Kayshon Boutte for scores as the Patriots outscored the Browns 21-0 in the third quarter. Myles Garrett, though, recorded a franchise record 5 sacks and surpassed Reggie White for the most career sacks by a player under 30 with 112 and a half. Dylan Gabriel, was that correct? I don't know. Somebody double check that. Dylan Gabriel completed 21 of 35 passes for 156 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. New England improved to 6-2, extending their winning streak to 5 games, while Cleveland dropped to 2-6.
So on a personal note, I had a big-time fantasy decision. I have Drake May and Joe Flacco on my team. I don't know if you recall earlier, I think when they played Buffalo, I was like, all right, May's doing really good, but if he does good in this game, he's one you can trust every game. But this vaunted Cleveland defense really did scare me, especially with the Jets being the matchup on the other side for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I went with Joe Flacco over Drake May, and it looked like the right choice at halftime as they were getting stuffed. They were getting field goals were the Patriots. He did get his points up a little bit as he was getting some rushing yards. And did May, I think he finished with 50, but he had like 30 of those in the first half. And then all of a sudden, that third quarter, like you said, man, bam, 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 3 quick strikes. And not only did he catch up to Joe Flacco, who stalled as they got their rushing touchdowns in the second half, he surpassed them. Both those guys finished in the top 5 of quarterbacks, so you'll take the points no matter how you get them. But I mean, this just shows you May is just so good. He's going to find a way, even on struggling. Again, 6 sacks. They were getting only field goals, but they trust him more than the running game. They use the running game as a complement, not as a mainstay there. I mean, sometimes it can be part of their game, but Drake May is the man in terms of game plan, in terms of quality, in terms of ability. He is just showing how good of a quarterback he is this year.
Yeah. It's like they didn't skip a beat, man. They had Mac Jones for a minute, and then they're like, okay, no, we found it. We found our coach now. We found our quarterback now. And they're going to rebuild that defense. They're going to be a force. Buffalo better hurry up and win the Super Bowl because Patriots ain't going to let this division just go to them.
Go.
All right, moving on. We've got the New York Giants at the Philadelphia Eagles. Barkley's breakout Barry's former team as the Eagles exact revenge here. Eagles 38, Giants 20. Saquon Barkley exploded for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns against his former team as Philadelphia dominated New York. Barkley scored on a 65-yard run on the game's second play before adding a 9-yard touchdown reception. Jalen Hurts completed 15 of 20 passes for 179 yards and 4 touchdowns, throwing 2 scores to Dallas Goedert, who reached a career-high 7 touchdowns already this season. Tank Bigsby contributed 104 rushing yards on 9 carries after Barkley exited with a groin injury. Jackson Dart, he threw for 193 yards and a touchdown for the Giants, who lost rookie running back Cam Skattebo to a dislocated ankle. Philadelphia improved to 6-2, while New York fell to 2-6.
So yeah, Philadelphia definitely wanted revenge back on this game as they were utterly embarrassed on that Thursday night game a couple weeks back. Everyone saw it. Barkley even afterwards mentioned that he didn't like how they were celebrating. Not that they didn't deserve it, but he's like, we don't want to see them celebrating like that again. We have the power to stop them, and they did. They came right out of the gates there. Dallas Goedert didn't make our stud list, but he was because he only had he didn't have a lot of yards and a lot of catches, but he got in the end zone twice. This man has been very effective most of the time this year. He's been their best receiver in terms of fantasy points. And once again, with the absence of A.J. Brown, he stepped up quite a bit. Tyron Tracy got the second half work. Okay, not great. I think he had like 12 carries for 39 yards, something like that. So he averaged like 3.25 yards a carry, give or take. But he's going to be the main guy going forward here unless they do something else. The other thing that caught my attention, I was surprised because I wasn't watching this game too thoroughly. I was just kind of following along, and then I saw that when Saquon left, I'm like, who got the carries? Was it Dylan? He's been the one coming in all these games. And my son's like, it was someone with a number 7 on the back. I'm like, is it Shipley? He's number 7. He's like, no, it was not 7. It was something with a 7. I'm like, I don't know Tank Bixby's number. I know
37.
Yep.
Tank Bixby's 37.
Right. Like AJ Dillon's 20, I believe. It was Tank Bigsby, and afterwards I looked back because I didn't realize AJ Dillon was a healthy scratch. This came out of nowhere because Bigsby has not been doing anything except doing kick returns and usually fumbling them. But with Dillon a healthy scratch and they're going into a bye, this might be a time for them to transition into the backup. Again, we don't think Barkley's has a serious injury here, especially since they're already going to get next week off due to the bye. But that just shows you if you're doing that, what the heck? Let me store someone on the back of my bench in case the worst thing happens to some of these big-time players here. Looks like Bigsby might be the one to hold on to, at least for the short term. Because, again, it's hard to say in these games when someone gets hurt in the middle of it. Game plans can change. But with a healthy scratch for Dillon and Bigsby getting the carries, that's actually the most interesting thing about this game to me is that Bigsby just jumped 3 guys to be the second running back.
Yeah, and then following Bigsby, you're going to have to just keep an eye on Will Shipley. Will Shipley got 3 carries, not much, but he was definitely in the game. So a backup to the backup, assistant to the regional manager, whatever.
There you go. Very good. Well, they exacted revenge, and they're still at a 6-2 is are the Eagles now? Yep. Quietly tied with the best record in the NFC. Let's put it that way, in the NFC.
In the NFC, yep. All right, moving on. We've got the Buffalo Bills at Carolina Panthers. Cook's career performance powers Bills' dominant return from the bye. Bills 40, Panthers 9. James Cook rushed for... I'm sorry, I didn't call him by his right name. Jimbo rushed for a career-high 216 yards and 2 touchdowns as Buffalo dominated Carolina in their return from the bye week. Josh Allen completed 12 of 19 passes for 163 yards with a 54-yard touchdown to Khalil Shakir and added 2 rushing scores. Allen set an NFL record by recording both a passing and rushing touchdown in his 46th game, surpassing Cam Newton's previous mark.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. On the other side, Andy Dalton committed 3 first-half turnovers, including a fumble recovered by Christian Benford and an interception by A.J. Epinesa that set up Buffalo's scores. Cook's touchdown run of 64 and 21 yards made him the 3rd Bills running back to rush for 200 yards and 2 scores, joining Kookie Gilchrist and O.J. Simpson. Buffalo improves to 5-2, while Carolina fell to 4-4.
Yeah, this is a butt kicking here. You had the Buffalo defense, so I was looking at that stat a lot, and I was like, oh my gosh, well they just every time I looked, fumble recovery, sack, fumble recovery. Then they got that. Yeah. They had that one. I thought they were going to score. They got tackled the inch line. I was like, oh, they're going to get 35 points today. Luckily, in my case, that Chuba Hubbard got that one stupid touchdown that like took a good chunk of your points back away as they met some thresholds there. But except for the total points at the end, the dominating defense here, or the ineptitude of Dalton and the offense, this was a shellacking. It was like 40-3, I think, at one point, or something like that.
It was rough for sure. The Bills defense, this is their first game where they actually shown up on the fantasy stat sheet. So,
well, I wonder how much that has to do with them coming off a bye. Maybe that helps out. Maybe they refocus some of their their game plans here, or it was just an easy opponent. I don't know. But the Panthers, they're still 500 even with this devastating loss. They've been very overperforming here. It would have been very surprising if they would have beaten the Bills, but we thought it would have been a little bit more competitive for a little bit longer. This was pretty much out of reach by the middle of the second quarter.
Oh, yeah. So I'm surprised they didn't sit more of these Bills offensive pieces sooner. So,
yeah.
It is what it is, though. Buffalo's dominating, but I think the Patriots still are on top of that division. All right, moving on. Chicago Bears at Baltimore Ravens. Huntley steadies Ravens ship as Henry surpasses Peyton. Final score, Ravens 30, Bears 16. Tyler Huntley completed 17 of 22 passes for 186 yards with 1 touchdown and added 53 rushing yards as Baltimore snapped a 4-game losing streak. Derrick Henry rushed for 71 yards and 2 touchdowns on 21 carries, moving him into 5th place on the all-time rushing touchdown list with 112 career scores, surpassing Bears legend Walter Payton. Nate Wiggins intercepted Caleb Williams in the 4th quarter at the Chicago 18, setting up a 10-yard touchdown pass from Huntley to Charlie Kohler that extended Baltimore's lead to 23-13. Williams only completed 25 of 38 passes for 285 yards with 1 interception, while Rome Odunze caught 7 passes for 114 yards. Baltimore improved to 2-5, while Chicago's 4-game winning streak ended as they fell to 4-3.
It seemed like Baltimore was kind of dominating this game once it got into the third quarter. But you looked at the score, the Bears had a chance. They were down, I think, 7 points in the middle of the fourth quarter there. I don't know, you might have watched that more. I don't know how they got stopped on fourth down or something. In the red zone.
There was at least 1 or 2 fourth down stops for Chicago.
Then Baltimore came back and I think made a field goal to get it back up to like more than the 7 or 8 points. But it was, even though it was dominating, it was a close game in terms of score, at least math wise. But I was surprised how little, Baltimore's been bad on defense. They came out of the bye too, like Buffalo. Maybe they focus some energy on defense here. I know they have a lot of injuries already, but maybe they figured out who can replace who with a little more time. Baltimore kind of dominated this game. Huntley managed the game. Although he did start off throwing a lot. He was peppering Zay Flowers early in the game. He had like 6 or 7 catches in that first half, it looked like, give or take. But they didn't throw. But all the touchdowns went to Henry. They didn't get a lot of touchdown opportunities. They were using the field goal kickers and field position. But Henry got in the end zone. I just want to clarify because I was listening, but you were going fast. You said Henry surpassed Walter Payton in terms of touchdowns or yards or both? What was it?
Oh, it was. Hold on. I'm sorry. I have it up here. Williams. I'm sorry. I don't want to mess it up. Derrick Henry rushed. He moved into 5th place on the all-time rushing touchdown list with 112 career scores.
I'm sure he's close to him in yards as well, but I was just curious what that stat was, because Walter Payton, even though he's been passed by a couple of guys, is still like the gold standard in a way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
He's like Babe Ruth. They've been passed, but you still say Babe Ruth's the home run king kind of thing in a weird way.
Yeah, like when they set up the chart as a measuring stick, he was the guy. So eventually he will be passed, but it's one of those things.
All right, very good. But yeah, Baltimore needed this win, and with the loss by Cincinnati, they're really rooting for now, obviously, for Pittsburgh to lose this night game. It's very close in the fourth quarter, I think. So there's a chance for that one to go either way. But the Ravens need a lot of help. They needed this win against a quality opponent, at least in terms of their streak going on here. So that was a big win to keep them alive. And they did it with Huntley. Were you shocked or surprised? The bookmakers were, and as of Friday, they had that 6.5 spread for the Ravens, and then I double-checked by the time the game started, it was down to 2.5. So the bookmakers thought Lamar Jackson was going to play all through the week. And there's a little bit of people are like they were little fudging on or not designating the injury correctly here. There's a little bit of a backlash on how they reported this injury here. I don't know too much about that. I mean, if he's practicing, you list him as questionable, and all of a sudden I don't know. But a lot of people were surprised that he was not going to play today, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. I was surprised that he was not going to play today. But I was thoroughly happy that Huntley did throw the ball to Zay Flowers. Flowers had the most targets on the team, and he had the most receptions on the team. So that's awesome to see.
All right, what's our next game?
All right, next up we have, who do we have? What do we have? Go to this one. San Francisco 49ers at the Houston Texans. Oh, this one, Stroud shines as surging Texans stifled shorthanded 49ers. Final score, Texans 26, 49ers 15. CJ Stroud threw for a season-high 318 yards with 2 touchdowns as Houston defeated San Francisco. Without star receiver Nico Collins, Stroud spread the ball to 9 different targets, with Xavier Hutchinson leading with 69 yards receiving and a score, while rookie Jalen Knoll added 63 yards. Hutchinson's 30-yard touchdown grab extended the lead to 23-7 with about 7.5 minutes left in the third quarter. The 49ers fell to 5-3, while the Texans improved to 3-4. George Kittle grabbed a 17-yard touchdown reception here to cut the lead to 16 near the end of the first half. End of the first half. DeMatador Lenore intercepted Stroud on the last play of the first half, ending San Francisco's NFL record 14 game, 469 consecutive pass streak without an interception.
Oh, okay.
Christian McCaffrey was held to just 25 rushing yards on 8 carries.
I think it was the first game of the season McCaffrey didn't score a touchdown one way or the other.
Yeah.
I'm not positive on that, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I was surprised. And going into this game, the game was in Houston, correct?
Correct.
So there was a little confusion in a way that the Texans were favored going into this game. Like, how are they favored? They're a worse team on record to the San Francisco 49ers. Granted, they're at home, but they're missing their number one player, Nico Collins, if you think that's the case. You know what I mean? And Christian Kirk. But they showed out. They got off to a pretty big start. I don't know if it was their first or second touchdown, but there was a turnover around midfield by Mac Jones. I don't know if it was a fumble or an interception that really turned the field around and got Houston to that initial 2-score lead. I believe it was the second set up their second score. Gave them a 2-score lead, and they never really turned back after that. San Francisco scored a couple late times to make it look not as bad as it was, but really it was like 19-zip or 19 to I don't. You can double check. It was they were up by 2.5 scores were the Houston Texans pretty quick in this game. And they just kind of wrote it out from there. And we keep mentioning Noel and Higgins as the rookie receivers, but even after I did the quickie today, I was like, I gotta put Xavier Hutchinson in this list here because he's the one actually coming through with the scores when these Christian Kirk's been out more often than the other guys that we would assume would be the bigger players. And he's a bigger body receiver. I kind of like he's more of a possession, bigger body guy as opposed to Noel, who's the tiny guy. And Higgins is kind of like a quick, skinny guy. These are very generic terms, I know, but Hutchinson deserves to be on your radar, especially when they're missing some of their bigger time receivers.
Yeah, Hutchinson and Noel both had 6 targets, and Higgins had 8 targets, so they weren't that far off anyway.
Right.
But Hutchinson definitely with the touchdowns is going to make that happen. Let's not overlook Nick Chubb's role in this game, though.
I thought he looked good to start.
Yeah, he carried 17 times to Marks's 11. Marks had a couple more yards, but it's good to see that Chubb is getting a little bit of workload. So who's to say by the end of the season and the beginning of next season, Nick Chubb isn't much closer to old form Nick Chubb?
I was surprised that Chubb got a lot of the first drive work. And he had like 2 or 3 catches in that first drive, which I was pleased to see. He really set the tone, but his numbers kind of locked into that 60 yards or 6 points, 60 yards. And he, as I think Mark's got most of the second half work there. And he got more yards by the end, I think just by the way they were using them. They were kind of let Chubb wear him down and Woody Marks use his speed to get away from the guys when they were tired at the end. Pretty good game plan. They really dominated this game. Kind of surprising, but they again a big win for Houston as they've been struggling. But they've won 3 of their last 4 games, I believe, after starting off 0-3. So a big win for Houston to keep their season in sights.
Yep, for sure. All right, next game up we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at New Orleans Saints. Nelson's noteworthy night powers Buccaneers past the beleaguered Saints. Final score: Buccaneers 23, Saints 3. Tampa Bay edge rusher Anthony Nelson had an interception for a touchdown to go with a forced fumble and 2 sacks as the Buccaneers beat the New Orleans Saints here. Nelson intercepted Spencer Rattler through the thrower out of his way and waltzed into the end zone for a 7-0 lead. Sean Tucker ran for a 1-yard score that should have been Rachaad White. On 4th down, the Saints turned the ball over 4 times with 2 interceptions, 1 pick 6 to allow the Bucs to solidify their grip on the NFC South at 6-2, while the loss dropped the Saints to 1-7. Rookie Tyler Shuck entered the game with 3 minutes and 53 seconds to play in the third quarter, with the Saints down 17-3. Chase McLaughlin drilled 3 50-plus yard field goals. And I'll just say something real fast here for Tyler Shuck. Don't let this play have any effect on what Tyler Shuck can and cannot do. He was just thrown into a shit show.
Yeah. So, couple things to notice here. This was like we mentioned, the defenses and the kicker were the big time scorers for Tampa Bay. New Orleans didn't do anything. I did notice you mentioned that Sean Tucker got the 1-yard touchdown plunge, but that wasn't his only time. Because you have Rachaad White, and our game has been close throughout the day until a couple of late random touchdowns that really kind of separated us here. But it was a touch and go either way. and Rashad White was going to be a big time difference maker one way or the other. They got
Oh, yeah.
first and goal at the 1, and they gave Rashad White 3 straight carries where he got stopped. Not lost, not going forward, stuffed. Then they gave it to Sean Tucker, and he got stuffed. And then the next time they got down there, they gave it to Sean Tucker. He got stuffed once or twice, but he got in. I don't know how many carries it took. But,
He got in on the fourth. He got in on the 4th down. It took him eight tries from the 1 yard line to get in, and Sean Tucker finally got in.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but I mean, Rashad White, they gave him the opportunity. Like, man, they gave him 3 attempts. I thought they would give him 1 attempt, maybe 2, and then have Baker do something. They just kept trying to hand it, and they got stuffed, which is not good for confidence on giving that player. I'm surprised they gave him that many attempts, but I don't know if they'll give him that many attempts going forward. He really shot down his opportunity to be a goal line back with trust anyway for the next couple weeks, unless he gets a couple really good runs. So those are big stuffs. But then they turn the ball over on downs at the 1 yard line, and then like you said, the very next play was like an interception by the edge rusher who ran it right in. So they got the defensive score instead of the offensive score. Like I always say, whenever I see a defensive score on a team where I have offensive players, I'm like, oh no, it really does flip the script. At least it takes a good 15 minutes to flip that back around. And if the team stinks like the Saints did today, it never flips back around.
Yeah, for sure. But the only saving grace for Rashad White is that he does have the receptions under his belt, and he does good with the reception. So, and Baker needs somebody to throw the ball to.
Yeah,
That's
they didn't need it
always
today because they were up by so much. But yeah, but in general, yes.
Exactly. All right, moving on to the next game, we've got the Dallas Cowboys at the Denver Broncos. Broncos batter Cowboys behind Knicks. Newcomer Harvey's hat trick. Final score, Broncos 44, Cowboys 24. Denver's defense created 4 turnovers while the Cowboys entered without three safeties, a cornerback, and a linebacker, all sidelined by injuries. Rookie R.J. Harvey, I hate this guy, scored 3 touchdowns as the Broncos moved to 6-2 on the season. Denver rookie first-round cornerback Jade Barron caught the first interception, and linebacker DeAndre Tillman caught the second interception as the Broncos entered Week 8, leading the NFL in quarterback pressure rate. Dak Prescott finished with 188 yards on 19 of 31 passing, with 2 picks as the pressure applied to the Cowboys' young offensive line limited Prescott's opportunities. Bo Nix found Cortland Sutton, Troy Franklin, and Pat Bryant and Evan Ingram for scores throughout the game.
Yeah, this one, I felt like they did, RJ Harvey had 1 random carry in that first quarter for a 40-yard touchdown. That was his only touch for a long time. He got in the end zone. Then they gave him a direct snap to get his second touchdown. Until he got like 3 carries on the last drive, he literally had 5 touches for 3 touchdowns. It was crazy how efficient he was. And that's what I was banking on. I was hoping that just Dallas being a bad defense, I'm like, I don't think he's going to get a lot of opportunities, as J.K. Dobbins was the main running back, but he just is like their joker. They'll put him in certain situations. And he has the young legs, so he can break these plays. And he just came through in the weirdest way. I'll take it. That's nuts. But by the end of it, this went back to how Dallas played those first 2 weeks of the season, where Dak Prescott looked fine. Granny had the interceptions, mind you. But when they got into the red zone, it was Javonte Williams getting the short touchdowns, capping the receivers and Dak Prescott for the Cowboys. They wanted to get Javonte Williams in there against his old team, and it looked like that was their only priority, as winning didn't seem like that was the priority here. It was about getting revenge for their teammate here. But the Broncos, after that, I don't want to say lucky, big-time comeback, when fortunate turn of events last week, took advantage of that and kept it rolling, and they were pretty good all day long today.
Yeah, this game was out of hand and out of control when the losing team sat their quarterback and put in Joe Milton to throw a couple passes at the end of the game, and Bo Nix went ahead and finished the game altogether. So it's got to be bad when you don't perform and they're just like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to cry about it. It's defeating. So the only positive thing I'm going to take out of this was that both Pickens and Lamb seem to coexist, and both can put up wide receiver 1 numbers if the whole offense is running good.
I thought in terms of routes and just athleticism, obviously both receivers looked great, looked good, looked very good. But Pickens, he does catch your attention. He does some nifty things out there just by where he stretches and jumps and reaches. Had a really couple nice toe tap catches. He's fun to watch.
Yeah, and I did notice that as well. And this is what I got out of that. I got that CD Lamb does the same thing, but he does it so effortlessly that it makes it look so easy.
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
And Pickens just has to show the athleticism to make the same kind of catch. But both, I'm not going to take anything away from Pickens this time around. Both are really excellent receivers.
I will say it does cap either one of their potential here, as they both they're not flip flopping, going like one with a big game, one with a small game. They're both getting like 80 yards right now, and they're not scoring without the hyper targeting they were doing when it was one or the other.
Exactly. But they both are putting up wide receiver one receptions, attempts, targets.
Yeah.
They just need that touchdown to cap it off. But you're right. You're absolutely right. Ceiling for both is much lower.
All right.
Next up, we have the Tennessee Titans at the Indianapolis Colts. Taylor's triple touchdown triumphs, torments Titans again. And again. The Titans just can't win. Colts 38, Titans 14. Jonathan Taylor rushed for 2 touchdowns and caught another in a milestone game, and Daniel Jones threw for 2 more scores to help the Indianapolis Colts continue their surprising, not to everybody, start with 38-14 route over Tennessee. Taylor scored 3 touchdowns against the Titans in each of their previous 2 meetings, making him the first player in league history to have 3 touchdowns in 3 consecutive games against the same team. He finished with 12 carries for 153 yards, the 4th 100-yard game this season for the league's rushing leader. Jones was 21 of 29 with 272 yards, no interceptions, as Indy improved to 7-1 and stayed atop the AFC South with its 4th straight win. Titans fell to 1-7 with their 3rd straight loss. And I didn't write this down, but I heard it that this is like the 14th straight game or something like that. Is a ridiculous number where Indy has beaten the Titans.
Okay. This we mentioned before. He's on pace for LaDainian Tomlinson numbers from I forget the year. It was like 2007, between 2004 and 7. I'm not sure the exact date because Tomlinson had a couple years, but this is like the one year where Tomlinson was getting 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns every other week. And you mentioned how he's done it to the Titans. I believe Tomlinson did to the Raiders. Every time they played the Raiders, he was in the bank for 3 touchdowns. I think that's this is his equivalent matchup here. It's like, and like you said, the only good thing. Well, it depends how you look at it. Bad thing for you. You wish they could play the Titans every week at this point. But I think Jonathan Taylor can do this against almost any team, as he's done it 3 games in a row. Like we mentioned, I don't know if we mentioned off camera or on the start of the second half, he had that 80-yard touchdown run. I was like, oh no, this is going to be interesting now. I don't like this. And the defense was so bad. They like watched him. He went down the sideline the whole time, and 3 guys were out in front of him, and all they do was had to push him. And instead they tried to like pull on his towel or something. It was weird. They did like a swim move tackle attempt instead of just pushing him. That's all they had to do. But Jonathan Taylor was going full speed. He's like, I don't care what you do. I'm not going to wait to see if you're going to try and tackle me. I'm just going to run full speed, and if you want to be out there and be lazy, then I'm going to score. And he took a big-time advantage of it.
Oh, yeah. So I watched a little bit of this game. It was pretty amazing to watch the effortlessness of the Indianapolis offense just kind of move through Tennessee.
Yeah.
But on the Jonathan Taylor thing, when that rush happened, and they just couldn't get him off balance just to move 3 inches off the line, and they were making contact with him, and that's how crazy it was. You know who the announcer was? He used to play for Tennessee. He used to play for Miami, but he used to play for Tennessee as well. He's one of the twins.
Oh, McCourty?
Yeah, McCourty. It was Devin McCourty.
Okay.
Devin McCourty said Jonathan Taylor was the reason that he wasn't a starter anymore because of the same situation. Two missed tackles on Jonathan Taylor and the same type of run where McCourty couldn't get him down, and he should have gotten him down.
Gotcha.
He's like after that incident, after those incidences, he was basically like, I was not a starter anymore.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. This game was a blowout. It was just, there wasn't much going on here. Honestly, I thought Cam Ward looked better in terms of the not big turnovers and not like crazy sacks. He still got his sacks and stuff, but he didn't look so like out of sorts, but they just couldn't get anything going compared to how efficient and how awesome the Colts were, that this game was just out of reach. The whole time I'm watching, like, just pull the starters. They're up by so much. And then I was thinking about all the other games, like Denver coming back last week. And like, they scored 33 points in the fourth quarter. You got to be up by more than that. And of course, Taylor got that third touchdown, which made it the 38-point differential or whatever the final was. I'm like, could have been somebody else. At least Josh Downs got a touchdown there. I was like, thank God it wasn't him this time.
Yeah, no, it was an offensive showing for sure for Indianapolis, and I don't think Indianapolis has scored 30 points in 7 of their 8 games so far.
Yeah.
I believe.
Right. That's why even though their defense is so good, if you've got a decent offense against them, I don't expect that team to win. How was it the Chargers last week or 2 weeks ago? I'm like, play Herbert, because I don't think they're going to win, but the other team's going to score 30 points. You're going to have to try to keep up. And if you're not going to be, if you have a decent enough offense, you should be able to get at least to 24 points, give or take, and that's what they did last time. So their defense is good, not completely suffocating, but the fact that they score so fast, their opponents are going to have opportunity if they have any quality to them. Tennessee is just not that team to have that quality.
Exactly. All right, and that was our last game for the conversation.
Perfect. We went through this pretty well today. I don't have all the stats here. I'm just looking at the game here. The Sunday night game is in the middle of the fourth quarter. Green Bay is now up by 10 with the ball, 29-19. And Tucker Kraft is the winner of the National Tight End Day. I believe he has 3 touchdowns, and they all been kind of long, rumbling ones, not just short ones like some other tight ends get. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I'm going to guess it's close to 110 yards and 3 touchdowns on like 6 catches. Maybe Bernie can look that up as I go here, but he's doing awesome. It's been trading touchdowns for field goals in terms of the Green Bay to the Steelers here. And it looks like the Steelers are probably going to lose this game, which is going to make that NFC North very interesting for both Cincinnati, who had a tough loss today, and a big win for the Baltimore Ravens. So that's going to make that division back in play for those teams who got off to tough starts. Do you have any stats in that game that maybe you looked at while I was talking there? If not, no big deal. Just curious.
Yeah. Tucker Kraft is 9 targets, 7 for 143. And 2 touchdowns.
Oh, it was 2 touchdowns. I guess one was a long play that happened.
Yeah, so basically he took my Romeo Dobbs stat line, which I could have had, and made this a more competitive matchup with you.
All right. Let's get into some early waiver wire targets. I've got a weird list here. A lot of quarterbacks, even though it's a mess. A lot of running backs and like no receivers. All right. I'm going to go through mine real quick, and you can just add what you want, I guess. I've got J.J. McCarthy. He's coming back, guys. I don't know how good he is. They're playing Detroit. That's a tough matchup. But Carson Wentz, due to him being banged up as well and not being effective, and the improving health of McCarthy, we've got a new starting quarterback on the waiver wire out there. If you want to dip your toe in the Minnesota passing game, J.J. McCarthy is out there. I have Jake Browning on here. This sounds crazy to say, but Joe Flacco did look stiff and old by the end of this game. He got sacked once, and he was really wincing, had to go to the locker room to check his shoulder, make sure it wasn't something wasn't wrong in there. He did come right back on the field. I don't think Jake Browning can do what Flacco has been doing, but I could see a thing that Flacco's not going to make it through here if he gets sacked, 2 to 3 times a game. Luckily, he's been getting rid of the ball pretty quick and not getting hit. But with him running for 14-yard first down runs and quarterback sneaking for touchdowns and then getting a sack now and again, just keep an eye that they're going to go back to Browning potentially. Tyler Huntley with the bye week. I don't know. There's not a bye week for Ravens. They have a short week. They're playing against Miami on Thursday night. Great matchup against Miami. At this point, you can't trust the news until you hear the final inactive list. Maybe throw Tyler Huntley as an emergency backup play, especially if you're the Lamar Jackson owner. So you have that Ravens quarterback all lined up because they are playing Miami. And except for this week, that's been a very juicy matchup. I'm going to finish here. Joe Burrow, he's on the sideline, still in a boot. It's probably going to be 6 to 8 more weeks before he comes back. Now's not the time to pick him up. But there's going to be a day in week 12 where it's going to be too late. You're going to say, I wish I picked him up in week 11. Keep an eye on Joe Burrow if you're a playoff-bound fantasy team as a sneaky pickup to, at the very least, keep away from an opponent and maybe have a superstar heading into your fantasy playoffs. What do you have for these quarterbacks, or do you have anyone else in that range there?
Do you know how many Hawaiian left-handed throwing quarterbacks there are in the NFL?
2.
That's right. And Dylan Gabriel, he's going on a bye for week 9, but coming out of the bye, he's playing the Jets and Baltimore and Las Vegas. That's
Okay.
his next 3 games, 10, 11, and 12. He was serviceable today. He got some fantasy points against a not horrible New England defense. So for fantasy relevance, Dylan Gabriel, Shador Sanders isn't going to be throwing the ball around. 10, 11, and 12, he might be a sneaky pickup.
And especially if we won't know for sure, but if Keyshawn Junkins misses any times, that's going to change the ratio of because Dylan Sampson is a receiving running back. If he's going to get more of the snaps, they're going to have more checkdowns to him as opposed to handing it off to the power back.
Exactly. And their defense is stout.
Exactly. I'll let you start off here with running backs if you have a list. If not, I can just do mine. No big deal either way.
Yeah, I got a quick list here. For running backs, who's at the top of my list here? Samaje Perine, I would put up there. He looked good. It's always good to have him as a backup or handcuffed. Tyjae Spears looks like he is going to maybe compete with Tony Pollard, if not surpass him for touches. Isaiah Davis, he looked like he put up some points today. I don't know if that was just Cincinnati's defense, but those are the 3 guys that I would have circled at the top of my list. Oh, in our league, Ollie Gordon II is available. This again might be a mirage game. Who knows what the Dolphins offense is going forward. Tank Bigsby, Sean Tucker, they're also going to be available as well.
Yep, I've got most of those guys there. Just keep in mind, Tank Bigsby, they're on bye next week, so that it's a little bit of a, I don't know when you want to make that move, if at all. Samaje Perine looked like the better running back in terms of rushing the ball. He's actually a good all-around guy too. He's just not as fast, but he's definitely more powerful and of a runner than Chase Brown, who's serviceable at his size. But Perine looked really good today. And you mentioned Isaiah Davis. Honestly, I think he is what helped Breece Hall get going. He had some of the bigger runs when they weren't doing much on offense. He ran through the holes, and all of a sudden Breece Hall's like, oh, there's holes there. I don't have to like stutter and expect to be hit. And he finally because Isaiah Davis was sprinting through the holes right off the carry, and Breece Hall was doing the kind of like stutter and stop and look for it. And he still did the stutter and stop, but he didn't do 3 stutters and 3 stops. He did 1 stutter and then go. And I think Isaiah Davis really showed that there was like, you're not going to get hurt, man. Just run this way. There's a big hole here. Just go for it. I think he really showed him the way, if you will. So yeah. And I have Keaton Mitchell on here. I don't think Justice Hill got much work today. Keaton Mitchell got the 4th quarter work, and he had a lot of nice runs. Again, they're playing Miami. Derrick Henry's going to play, but I think Keaton Mitchell is at least on the even playing field as Justice Hill for that handcuff for Derrick Henry. And we've seen Keaton Mitchell in the past. I know we had some long time injuries, but when he's on the field, he's electric, very fast, can break a long run anytime. So I think he's a sneaky put in the back of your list here. I think that's about it for running backs. That was a good list there. And I only have one guy on my receiver list, which is crazy. I got Christian Kirk, only because they're playing Denver, which I would have avoided, but with the potential absence of Patrick Surtain. And again, he missed today with an injury, but I don't know how bad it is. So this is not a run out and go pay money for. But Nico Collins did not practice at all this week, which means he's not progressing to the concussion protocol. And he might have time to progress through the next week, but he hasn't gotten that like one leg head start into the following week. He's starting from scratch this week, guys. Christian Kirk might be the main receiver if you don't like those rookies we mentioned before in Hutchinson, Noel, and Higgins. So Christian Kirk's the only quality receiver I see that's out there and potentially can get on the field.
Yeah, I would just you already mentioned his name. Hutchinson's on there out there as well, just in case. And Malik Washington might be available just in case it's not a mirage.
All right, I know you usually don't. Do you have any kickers or defenses?
I do not.
All right, I only have one defense. I only have Jacksonville versus Las Vegas, and that's only because Geno Smith likes to get sacked a lot and throw interceptions. So they're out there because they're coming off the bye. So Jacksonville is the only streaming defense that really caught my attention. I got Cairo Santos against the Cincinnati Bengals. It's going to be high scoring. It's going to be easy to score, and field goals and extra points will be out there for that kicker. And Cairo Santos has been really good since his return. I think this might have been his first game back for Jake Moody, but he did really good today. Brandon McManus, I had on this before they're playing Carolina, before I saw him miss 2 or 3 kicks tonight. But again, with a team like Carolina, you're not really worried about having to trade off touchdowns for field goals. You'll take the 3 field goals to keep up today, and then maybe get your touchdowns later. And Josh Carty is a little up and down in terms of a quality of a kicker, but they're playing New Orleans, and we saw what Chase McLaughlin did today for the Tampa Bay Bucks. So I got Carty, McManus, and Santos, and just plus matchups with offenses that aren't going to run away from them. And that's all I have for my kickers targets here. Anything else you want to add in terms of waiver wire targets?
No, we'll get into a deep dive next episode.
All right, very good. Hey guys, thank you, Bernie. We did a pretty good job getting through these games. I guess we had 3 less games to go through, which helped a little bit too.
Yeah.
But we have. I want to thank you guys for joining us and watching and/or listening to Wingman Fantasy Football, the League podcast. You can find our audio feeds in podcast form on your favorite podcast platform. Just search Wingman the League, and we'll come to the top of your search. While you're there, guys, leave a comment, leave a 5-star rating, and let us know what we can do to make our show more enjoyable for you. Also, don't be afraid to let us know what games you want us to preview on our Friday morning show where we preview the Week 9 games. If you want to see our beautiful faces, our graphics, I think we did pretty good in terms of glitching tonight, Bernie. I'm optimistic, fingers crossed. You can find us on our YouTube channel at wingmanfantasyfootball.com/YouTube or youtube.com/@ Wingman Fantasy Football. When you head over there, guys, do me the favor. Hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment. We'll get you in our mailbag segment, and we'll also let you pick our games to preview. All right, guys, with that being said, may your glasses be full, your mugs stay frosty.
And remember, it's only week 8. You still have time to not suck.
Oh, man, scattaboo.